Echidna warrior. Sometimes he's portrayed as a strong, noble force to be reckoned with, and other times he's a straight-up dumbass. Today, we're gonna look at Knuckles' character in every mainline Sonic game and rank him from worthless to elite. His debut isn't until Sonic 3, so he gone in 1, 2, and CD, but I'm grouping 3 with Sonic and Knuckles this time because it's how the game's intended to be played. This one's tricky because he's peak capable, but for most of the game, he's working for the wrong side. After Angel Island gets attacked, Knuckles encounters Eggman and he convinces him he's the good guy, and that Sonic and Tails are trying to steal the Master Emerald. So throughout the game, he's a pretty big thorn in the ass, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily useless. In fact, he's quite useful to Eggman, but after he realizes he was fighting for the wrong side, he helps Sonic and Tails reach Eggman's ship, but is too exhausted after that to do much else. Because of all of that, he gets manipulated but strong tier, which I made specifically for cases where he's useful, but in the wrong way. In Sonic 3D Blast, he acts the same as Tails. He's hidden in different levels and takes you to special stages to collect the Chaos Emeralds. Barely does anything. Sonic Adventure kicks off similarly to Sonic 3, with Knuckles looking to protect the Master Emerald, Eggman telling him that Sonic's trying to steal it, the two fighting, Eggman getting what he wants, and leaving Sonic and Knuckles pissed off and working together. This time though, they join the same side much earlier in the game. Still though, almost the exact same setup, and Knuckles falls for it twice. I mean, fool me once, but this time it just makes him look stupid. But even when he does team up with Sonic, he doesn't do much. He's mostly on a side quest trying to restore the Master...
Hey babe. How are you, my beautiful girlfriend? How are you, my darling?
Emerald, and let Sonic do the whole saving the world thing by himself. We'll put him in manipulated but strong, because he's the whole reason Eggman got his hands on 2 of the emeralds, and he doesn't help stop him, but he's competent and does achieve his main goal of restoring the emerald, so I'll give him some credit. This is the first game where Knuckles plays a prominent role, and it's not helping Eggman at all. Him and Rouge have a standoff over who gets the Master Emerald, and when Eggman tries to snatch it while they're distracted, Knuckles breaks it into a million pieces and has to scour the Earth and space to find them all. He did create the problem in the first place, but the Master Emerald is the only thing with the power to counteract that of all 7 Chaos Emeralds.
I will be honest. My day so far is good. Just been really tense because, you know, I'm having family drama with a father that's acts like a man-child, and that he's Mr. Blue Eyes, and then I don't know, I've just been having a chaotic day. Overall, I've been fine. I tried to record a live stream at 3 o'clock, but the game didn't download. I took an hour nap from 2 or 3 to all the way to 6. Had dinner, had some family drama, and here I am live streaming this. So in short, this is the second live stream. This will be a replacement for the 3 p.m. one.
And has to scour the Earth and space to find them all.
Hey Meme, what's up?
He did create the problem in the first place, but the Master Emerald is the only thing...
You have a fever. Oh, it's okay, darling. I think just put some ice on it and try to eat some food that'll boost your immune system, and you'll be okay.
With the power to counteract that of all 7 Chaos Emeralds, so it's kind of vital Eggman didn't steal it, so I can justify his decision to smash it. However, when he does use it at the end of the game, it's in vain, because the actual Ultimate Life Form takes control of the space colony and keeps it on its collision course. Still though, he played a pretty big role and stepped up when he needed to, and I think that earns him an elite tier. I'm grouping all 3 advanced games together because his role is similar throughout the trilogy, but unlike Tails, who's unlocked pretty early on, Knuckles is more of a mid-game acquisition, and that'll dog him a little. Once unlocked though, you can go back and play any level you want with him, so he's fully capable, but not a full contributor.
You ate the ice cubes? Well, I don't think you're gonna be able to get rid of that fever then, babe. All you can do is just eat some food that will boost your immune system, and the type of food, I don't know what types, but the ones that get rid of your headache, and you should be okay.
So I can't put him any higher than sidekick tier. Sonic Heroes makes characters play in threes. Sonic's the speedster, Tails can fly, and Knuckles is the brute. So this game has a billion different story routes and endings, and some runs completely omit Knuckles. When he is there, though, he doesn't do much. He follows Shadow through a level or 2 and can be controlled by a second player. Not useless, but he barely does anything. Sonic Rush doesn't feature him much, but he is present in a couple cutscenes, where he's portrayed as pretty freaking useless. When he first meets Blaze and she's holding something shiny, he accuses her of stealing the Chaos Emeralds and gets mad. But when Blaze gets fed up with him, she crushes him under a pile of rocks like it's nothing. Then later on, when Sonic and Tails find him and he gets out, he's a pissed off hothead that smashes the pile of rocks and runs off. Honestly, he's borderline worthless, but clearing the rock pile did open a path to progress in the game, so he'll get barely does anything. This game really solidifies that moron reputation they gave Knuckles for the better part of a decade. When we first see him, he tosses this hologram thing to Sonic in the most unnecessarily cool way possible. And when Sonic gives it back, he fumbles it around and drops it. That's a weird detail for them to add. But looking beyond that, he does travel with Sonic and Tails through most of the story and is full-on playable in a section of Flame Core. Now, his gameplay is straight up booty cheeks, but he does help out a good bit, and I'll give him the bronze tier. Maybe I'm being too nice. After Sonic 06, Knuckles fell into a bit of a hiatus. He's nowhere to be seen in Sonic Rush Adventure, Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Colors, or Sonic 4 Episodes 1 and 2. I guess he was off protecting the Master Emerald or trying to rizz up Rouge. And it's not until Sonic Generations when he makes another appearance. And spoiler alert, it's not a very good one. He attends Sonic's birthday party, gets sucked away by the Time Monster, and needs Sonic to save him. After which he insults him and does jack shit. Then at the end of the game, when they resume the celebration, he goes for another dig at Sonic, and Amy's just not having it, and full-on Will Smiths his ass. Knuckles is a straight-up bitch in this game. Worthless. Sonic Lost World, once again, makes Knuckles kinda helpless. He throws all these petty insults at Sonic, like, oh, I would've done it quicker, or that's all you can do? Weak. And it's like, I get it, because they were once rivals, but him saying that type of shit in a game where he does nothing just annoys me. He's an incompetent goofball that Amy and these little animals do what they want with. Once again, making him absolutely worthless. Sonic Boom...
What is it, darling? What do you need to tell me? You okay, darling?
Completely rebranded the Sonic series and gave the characters much more streamlined personalities, but no one was more flanderized than Knuckles. He's modern Patrick Star, an airhead that's really strong, and in the show he has some pretty funny moments, but we're talking about the atrocity that is Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, where he's actually pretty useful again. He's fully playable alongside Sonic, Tails, and Amy, and he's without question the most broken character.
It sounds like you have the worst damn school in the world. You know what you should do, darling? You should just drop out of that school and head to my school. I graduated, so I'm not there anymore, but you should head to Arlington High School. That's where I graduated from. You should try there. I don't know if it's a little bit better there, but maybe you should just drop out of the school where you're at and just head to Arlington High School. Because honestly, I just focused on my work, graduated, and I didn't have to go there ever again. It should be a little bit nicer to you. It should be a little bit less bad to you. I don't know how it's going to be with you. But for me, it was hell for me. I don't know how it is going to be for you. But you should be able to graduate from that one.
In the game, figuratively and literally. When you pause the game during his mid-air special, you can unpause, use it again, and essentially just infinite jump. This completely...
But regardless of whatever school you're in, I know you can do it, darling. I know you can just get through it, graduate, and then I'll be able to see you in real life one day. When I'm 29 and you're 20. Hopefully that's the case. But only time will tell, darling. Only time will tell.
Breaks the game, but gives him shaggy levels of power, so... Elite! This game brings Knuckles back to his Sonic 3 and Knuckles form, making him fully playable throughout the game and giving him a ton of unique routes that take advantage of his gliding and climbing abilities. But this time around, he's not tricked by Eggman and is helping...
Oh, yeah. That sounds like the school of hell, my darling. Babe. An angel like yourself does not deserve to be in that type of school. That's for demons only. And by the sound of that teacher, she sounds like she's the right-hand man of you-know-who, and not the good kind.
Sonic throughout the entire game, making this one of the easiest elite tiers of the video. Sonic Forces is a bad game. It is. And while Knuckles isn't playable here, he actually uses his knowledge of combat and battle to form the resistance everyone fights in. He's the brains of their operation, and he leads the charge in the massive battle at the end of the game. So even if you can't play as him, he earns a spot at least up in the bronze tier. This time around, Knuckles' role is once again about the same as Tails'. He's turned into a digital form and locked up. Sonic has to rescue him. He follows Sonic around for a bit and helps now and again, and after the game's beat, you can play as him. That was only added in the latest and final DLC update last December, and since that's only after the world is saved, it doesn't bring the ranking up much. He gets manipulated but strong, because it's a mid-tier, and I guess he is manipulated by the Cybers.
So you have a jacket. Well, she deserved it. Honestly, that school sounds like a demon school for sure. Like humans aren't supposed to go there. And just by the sound of that teacher, that demon teacher deserved it. Good on you, baby. You don't deserve to always go to jail for every single thing you do. Seriously, darling, you don't deserve the fate you've gone through. I'm sorry, my darling, that we couldn't have met when I was like, what, 15 or younger, the same age as you. If you would, I would have always stood up to you. Stood up and protected you.
Face thing, so close enough. And last but certainly not least, we have Sonic Superstars, which makes Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles fully playable from start to finish. He's a slower character, but his gliding and climbing are super fun to use, and make exploring these areas a cakewalk, giving him one last elite tier. And there you have it.
Alright, so we've already seen both of them last time, but just in case for people who have not seen these two, I'm going to go ahead and watch them again, just in case. Just for people who haven't seen these. I know most people have already seen these two, but these are just for the people who haven't, so I'm going to watch these again.
Cool.
Oh, that's not the... let's see, which one is it? How useless is... We want this one. Get your teeth out of here. That looks horrible.
Miles Tails Prower, everyone's favorite lovable two-toed sidekick. Sometimes his genius plays a crucial part in saving the day, and other times he actively makes things worse and just gets in the way. Today, we're going to look at Tails' character in every mainline Sonic game and rank him from worthless to elite. He's not in the original Sonic the Hedgehog or Sonic CD, so let's start with his inception, Sonic 2, where he has a pretty strong debut.
Honestly, you need to drop... Babe, here's some advice from your future boyfriend, aka me. Just drop out of that school, go to a better one. Don't focus on anybody else. Just focus on your work, graduate, be done with it, and then you can move on. Because if you do that, you can meet me in real life one day when I'm 29 and you're 20. And who knows, maybe we can be friends, we can grow close and start dating. Take it from me. That sounds a lot better than what you're going through. You don't have to, though, darling. It's your choice.
Player, he follows Sonic through the entire game, and in co-op, player 2 gets to use him. He plays the exact same as Sonic, but with a smaller hitbox, so if he's able to maneuver all the same obstacles and keep up with the fastest thing alive, I'd say he's pretty darn useful. We'll put him in sidekick tier because he's not playable by himself, but he's borderline elite. Sonic 3 gives Tails the role of follower like the last game, but it adds the ability to fly solo with him throughout the entire campaign, and his trademark flight ability...
As a fourth grader? Okay. Well, I'm just letting you know, darling. You don't have to, though. But if this is the case, darling, that's fine. Just focus on your work. Don't ignore everybody else and just graduate and get on out of there.
He is absolutely broken. Also, in two-player, he can lift Sonic and guide him through the air, easily making this our first elite tier.
At least I try to give you some good advice. That's okay, though. You don't have to follow my advice, but I did try to help you.
In Sonic and Knuckles, you can only play as Sonic or Knuckles. Shocker, I know. But that means no Tails whatsoever. He gone. Oh no. I'm not sure if this game's...
Your ADHD will take over? Oh, sorry, darling. See, this is why we should have... I feel like me and you should have met as soon as I was 12 or maybe 15 or something. And then you were also... I was at the same school as you. We should have been at the same school. Because holy God, I do not know what is going on with my life anymore. I really don't know.
Considered mainline, but Tails does make cameos throughout the game and transport us to special stages to collect Chaos Emeralds, so barely does anything. Sonic Adventure is a game where Tails evolves from being dependent on Sonic to proving himself as an equally capable hero. In the beginning of the game, he crashes his plane on the shores of Emerald Coast, and Sonic has to go give him a hand. Then throughout the action stages, he follows Sonic through each area, and in his story mode, we see him race Sonic to each goal and actually come out on top in every single level. That's a hell of a good sidekick if you ask me. But at the end of the game, Sonic's off fighting Eggman by himself, and Tails is left all alone to save Station Square. His training wheels are off, and he has to overcome this obstacle without Sonic's help, and he crushes it. Watching his journey of self-discovery unfold in this game is peak Tails, and it definitely deserves a spot in the lead. Sonic Adventure 2 is a tough one, because he's once again playable and has a big part in the progression of the story, but there's two things really hurting his case. First off, he's in a mech this time, so gone are his OP helicopter Tails. Instead, he controls this super clunky robot that's just really not fun to play as. I'd still consider it a solid sidekick tier, though, if it weren't for him blowing the entire operation at the end of the game. This is one of the most iconic cutscenes in Sonic history. If you don't know what I'm talking about and are still avoiding spoilers for a 20-year-old game, skip to the timestamp on screen. But basically, they try to trick Eggman with a decoy Chaos Emerald, and when Sonic goes to give it to him and gets captured, Eggman bluffs and Tails absolutely sells.
You thought you could trick me with that thing.
So, how did you know it wasn't the real world?
Tails! Because you just told me, Fox Boy.
Now, it doesn't seem fitting because he got outsmarted, but he gets the brains tier for this one, because all the plans were his idea, and he does contribute, but he's a bit too much of a liability in this game. I'm grouping this trilogy all together because his character...
Aww. You know, darling, Nico, darling, sweetie, if you were like, at my school, Arlington High School, even though you're only still a 4th grader right now, if I was at the same school that you were in, on top of that, we were at Arlington High School together, I would have thought your cat headband with your cat tail would have been the most cutest thing ever. I would have just been like, oh my gosh, look at my little kitty girl, so cute. And I would have just cuddled and snuggled you, maybe even nuzzled. Seriously, it would have been so adorable.
Handled the same in all 3 games. He's playable super early on or from the start, and is just as good as the other characters, so nice and easy. This game introduces an entirely different gameplay style to the series, where you play as 3 characters at once and switch between them to solve puzzles and progress in the stage. Team Sonic consists of Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and he's not really better or worse than the other guys, so he gets sidekick tier. All 3 of them would. The answer for this game is entirely dependent on which story path you take. Sometimes he doesn't play any role, but when he does appear, he doesn't do a whole lot. He'll follow Shadow through a stage, and if a second controller's connected, a player 2 can play as him. But again, he's not a very unique character, and is only in the game for a very brief moment.
Damn.
Releasing the exact same day as Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic Rush is similarly lacking in the Miles Prower department. Except this time, he's not playable at all. Mostly just...
I wouldn't give a frick about what people said. Nico, sweetie, I would keep you close to me and my chest, and I would just continue cuddling, snuggling, and nuzzling you. I don't care what nobody said. I do not care. If I had to, in a protective way, I would have given him the big old middle finger. Be like, screw off. Seriously. I would get in trouble, sure, but if I was protecting you, then it doesn't matter. You're my girl, sweetheart. And I really care about you. Can't wait to see you when you're 20 and I'm almost freaking 30.
yaps and cutscenes, so pretty freaking worthless. The most notorious game in the Sonic series does in fact feature Tails as playable. He doesn't have his own story mode or anything, but in Sonic's, he steps in now and again to help out. His flying works okay, about as well as it could in a broken game, and his only attack being this super slow bomb throw flat out sucks. But still, he's playable and is a pretty useful sidekick. In Sonic Rush Adventure, he travels with Sonic throughout the entire story, but isn't seen at all in gameplay.
Exactly. Exactly. That's going to be when you're 20. That's going to be when you're 20, darling. I can't be with you for another almost 10 years. I have to wait till I'm 29. And then I got to go out into the world and try to find you so that way we can be friends, get to know each other more, and then maybe start dating. It's a pain in the butt for sure.
Instead, he's off to the side working on gadgets and machines to help them escape Robot Pirate Island. Not very useful to the player, but his brains do get them out of a bad situation. He doesn't contribute much in this game, but he does carry Sonic and Chip from continent to continent in the tornado, and introduces them to Professor Pickle, who tells him how to revert the whole werehog thing and restore Earth. It's not a very prominent role, but he does something, so he gets a high barely does anything. Similar to Unleashed, he's right there with Sonic for the entire story, but here we actually see more of him. He develops a gadget to communicate with the Wisps and to figure out what Eggman's up to, which is pretty freaking useful and would take some brains, so... This game once again keeps Tails on the back burner. Sonic rescues him and his past self, and they just stand around in the hub world after that. Now, he does help out in the occasional side mission, but those aren't necessary at all, so we've got another worthless. Sonic 4 Episode 1 doesn't feature Tails in any way, shape, or form, but Episode 2 brings him back to his classic glory. He's playable in multiplayer and runs alongside Sonic during single player, occasionally lifting him up to new routes and attacking enemies, so solid sidekick tier. Sonic Lost World is the worst portrayal of Tails out of any Sonic media. He's smart, but he finds the need to brag about it at every f***ing turn. And he gets, like, really jealous of Eggman throughout the story, which is so unjustified and makes it impossible to sympathize with him. And then when he's kidnapped halfway in, I was low-key kinda happy. Now, he does help Sonic quite a bit, sacrificing himself to the trap Sonic almost fell into, rescuing himself from captivity, and fixing up his plane, so he's not entirely useless, just really unlikable, and it doesn't really fit the character we've grown to love. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't played this one because I've heard just terrible things about it, but I do know Tails is playable and is a vital part of the team, so... And no, I'm not gonna count the handheld Sonic Boom games, same deal. Finally, another true classic Sonic game, and Tails returns to the playable roster, both alongside Sonic and by himself in single player. He can fly like usual to uncover new paths and damage enemies with his tails, so he's basically the same...
That's stupid. It's like you can't even be a student there. It sounds like the most hellish looking sounding school in the world, babe. It sounds like you can't even do anything. You can't breathe, you can't fart, you can't sneeze, you can't do anything. That sounds like the worst stupid school in history. I'm sorry you have to go through that type of school, honey.
As he was in Sonic 3. Therefore... I hate this game, man, and there's a million reasons why. But Tails' character is near the top of that list. Where adventure gives him a good arc overcoming his dependence, he slowly got less and less so in these modern games, and here, he's even more useless than Lost World. He's part of the quote-unquote resistance, but he really doesn't do much resisting. When Eggman attacks a group of civilians, he cowers down just like the rest of them, and needs his buddy to bail him out. And when he does, he just hides behind some rubble and watches Sonic get his ass beat. But that's not even his worst moment. When he's by himself trying to fix up E-102 Gamma and Chaos Zero shows up to attack him,
Sonic, help me!
he bends over, cowering, and begs for Sonic's help. And right when his ass about to get yoinked, classic Sonic shows up to save him. This takes his dependence to an all-new high, and his usefulness to an all-time low. Worthless. This time around, a digital version of Tails comes with us through basically the entire story, providing advice, explaining all these ancient technologies, and tracking down the Chaos Emeralds. So he's textbook brains tier. However, the recent update adds him as a playable character alongside Amy and Knuckles, and he's a ton of fun to play as. But since you only unlock him after beating the main game, it doesn't help his case at all. And finally, Sonic's latest 2D adventure features Knuckles, Amy, and Tails as playable characters throughout the entire main game, and Tails' flight ability and good speed stats make him one of my favorite choices, so he earns another elite tier. And there you have it.
The reason I keep watching these over and over is because it's kind of like a recap. That's basically what it is. It's kind of like a recap. Especially for people who have not seen these. Like, maybe 2, 3, or a couple of my fans have watched this already. But I keep watching these over and over because it's kind of like a recap as of what we watched. Besides the new thing the new useless Sonic character video that we watch every time. It's just like a little recap. So here we go. Last one.
Sonic the Hedgehog, everyone's favorite speedy, cocky little blue rodent. Sometimes the fate of the world's at stake and he 100% delivers, and other times he relies on his friends a bit too much or just does something stupid to make things worse. Today, we're going to look at Sonic's character in every mainline Sonic the Hedgehog game and rank him from worthless to elite. In the Hedgehog's debut, he plays a pretty standard protagonist role. There's not much story or context given, Sonic's just running around super fast and saving tiny animals from the clutches of the evil Dr. Robotnik. He succeeds, doesn't fuck anything up, and sets up a great foundation for his character, but compared to some later portraits, it's nothing spectacular, so he'll go typical. Sonic 2 ups just about everything from that first game. Faster levels, brighter environments, more characters, more emeralds, and a new form for our Blue Blur, Super Sonic. You can only use it when you collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds, but it makes Sonic feel OP as all hell. Now, Tails does travel with him, but he's not dependent on him for anything. Sonic's a role model to him, and Tails desperately wants to tag along. This game really refined Sonic into the badass he was seen as in the 90s, and I'm going to be generous and push him up to elite for it. I don't know what to do with this one, because Sonic's able to time travel, which is super useful, but everything depends on whether or not you get the good or bad ending. Some futures are destroyed by Eggman, and others flourish in his absence. It all boils down to how well the player plays the game. It makes him tough to rank, but him having so much control over the fate of the world makes me have to put him at least up in typical hero.
Monster Summer.
An echidna is what type of animal Knuckles is, and I think it's like a hedgehog type porcupine-ish looking animal, I think, and it mainly eats bugs like worms and stuff that people don't like, as well as I think it also digs. I'm not sure, I don't know much.
I'm grouping Sonic 3 with Sonic and Knuckles again because it's the definitive version and gives us the best look at the complete narrative. Eggman's trying to relaunch the Death Egg and tricks Knuckles the Echidna into helping him steal the Master Emerald. Instead of an overweight roboticist being his main competitor, here it's another anthropomorphic creature with powers that very much rival his. And when partnered with Eggman, the odds are really stacked against him throughout this one. Once Knuckles changes sides though, it's basically over. Sonic rips through the Death Egg and goes super to defeat Eggman. But if you collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds and convert those to Super Emeralds, you can unlock Hyper Sonic for the only time in the series. He's even faster than Super Sonic and can breathe underwater, making this the strongest form of Sonic we've seen to date. That alone makes this a really straightforward elite. In Sonic's fake 3D game, he's not doing anything too crazy. This new gameplay style makes him feel a lot slower and less agile than the classic games, which makes playing as him not feel nearly as satisfying. Plot-wise though, it's basically Sonic 1. Eggman's after the Emeralds and Sonic tries to save a bunch of flickies and stop the Doctor. The mediocre gameplay makes me want to lower him a bit, but he is effective in his goal and is a one-man wrecking crew, so I'll give it to him. Typical.
Okay, go ahead, babe.
Sonic Adventure is an excellent transition to 3D for the Sonic series. It carries over the level design philosophies, his moveset, and adds a couple new moves to make navigating this 3D space easier. He plays great, but his plot significance is watered down by the inclusion of a bunch of other characters. And that's not a bad thing, but it is for Sonic's role. Now, he's just one of 6 playable characters. And sure, his story is still the main event, but when you play through Tails' story, you see him beat Sonic to the end of every single stage. For the fastest thing alive, you'd expect him to easily outrun his pal. But he doesn't. And toward the end of the game, when Sonic defeats the Egg Viper and sends Eggman plummeting toward Station Square, he's off doing something else. And in a last-ditch effort, Eggman sends a missile at Station Square to blow it to bits. And the only one around that can do anything about it is Tails. So all by himself, he beats Eggman to the explosive and defeats him, which is a big moment for him, but makes Sonic out to be super careless and not having the situation under control at all. But when Perfect Chaos takes its full form, Sonic goes super and is the only one that stands a chance against that thing. That moment is pretty elite, but with the big focus on other characters and him failing to stop an Eggman missile, I've got to knock him down to typical hero. This game introduces a new character whose abilities contend with that of Sonic's, Shadow the Hedgehog. And throughout the game, Shadow is shown to be a lot stronger and more skilled than Sonic.
Gotta go, gotta eat dinner? Alright, sounds good, babe. I love you. If I'm still streaming, I'll see you when you get back from dinner.
When they first meet, he puts his speed to shame using Chaos Control and gets Sonic thrown in jail. If it weren't for Tails and somehow Amy, he probably wouldn't have gotten out, and the island would have exploded with him on it. He's kind of dependent on all his friends throughout the game. He needs Knuckles to break into Eggman's base, and he needs Tails to devise plans for him. Now, miraculously learning Chaos Control at the end was pretty damn cool, especially when he didn't even have an actual Chaos Emerald. How the f did he do that? I don't know. But he proves that he can be just as strong as Shadow, and the boss battle that follows only further solidifies that. But then for the epic final battle against the Bio Lizard, Sonic takes a backseat and lets Shadow handle the first phase. Then when the Bio Lizard takes over the space colony and sends it straight at Earth, he goes super alongside Shadow, which is a really badass moment, but since there's two of them, he's only doing half the work. I don't know, it's tough, because he really grows a lot as a character throughout the game and learns some sick moves, but he really relies on his pals, and Shadow does most of the work in actually saving the day. This game also features some of his most fun levels in the series, but these rankings are about how useful he is compared to his other games. And because of that, I gotta put this one in Sidekick tier. I love you, Sonic Adventure 2, I'm sorry. I'm grouping this trilogy together again because his role is super consistent throughout. In Sonic Advance 1 and 3, you can choose from at least Sonic or Tails right from the get-go. Sonic Advance 2 is the only exception, but after beating just the first level, you unlock Cream the Rabbit. So he kickstarts the game, but like the others, is just a selectable character from that point on. He's definitely useful, but not more so than his pals, so he's one with the sidekicks. Sonic Heroes introduced a new team mechanic to the series, where characters travel in threes and fall under a speed, flight, or power archetype. Sonic's, of course, the speed guy, and he travels with Tails and Knuckles. However, power and flight are definitely the more useful abilities, because all three of these guys move fast as hell, but he's still a decently equal contributor, and nothing more. Sidekick. The main character in this one is pretty self-explanatory, but Sonic does make an appearance as a side character that sometimes travels with Shadow through a level and can be played as with a second controller. This game has a whole bunch of story routes that change the way things play out. If Shadow helps the heroes, Sonic can co-defeat Black Doom, but if Shadow helps him, Sonic can't do a thing to stop it. This is about as helpless to a situation as we'll ever see Sonic, so I'll take the opportunity to give him his very first worthless. Sonic Rush features the new character Blaze, whose dimension is being merged with Sonic's by some evil plan from the two Eggmen. Her and Sonic are pretty comparable forces, but they don't really trust each other at first, so the two fight it out, and Sonic whoops her ass. Sonic collects the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and when Eggman drains the Soul Emeralds, he's able to show Blaze the meaning of friendship, which restores the Soul Emeralds. I don't know. They use their magic jewels to turn into Super Sonic and Burning Blaze and defeat the Egg Salamander. Sonic's the strongest character across both of these dimensions, and his gameplay introduces a boost mechanic, which makes him feel wicked powerful and fast. I think that's enough to push him up to an elite.
I'm sorry, babe. I'm sorry you have to go through that, my love. If I was there, I would have punched them across... I would have punched them in the snoz, or maybe slapped them across the face. Nobody touches my future girlfriend. Nuh-uh. I won't let that shit slide. Nuh-uh. No way. Nobody does that to my girl. I'm sorry you had to go through that, darling. I'm sorry. I'll make sure no more boys won't do that to you in the future. Once you're 20 and I'm 29.
For a game named after the guy, Sonic doesn't play a very vital role. This plot is confusing as all but Sonic's distracted by Elise for most of the game. While Silver's trying to avenge his fallen society, and Shadow's trying to figure out the sinister undertones of Eggman's plan, Sonic's trying to get some poon. He still crosses paths with the rest of the crew a lot, and contributes quite a bit then, but in the climax of the game, Mephiles kills Sonic and makes Elise cry, which releases Iblis and sends the world into disaster. He actually dies, and it takes the effort of every other character and a miracle to bring him back. But alongside Super Shadow and Super Silver, they save the day. So instead of needing one other guy's help, he needs 2. I gotta put this down and barely wins. He gets killed, it's done, and the bravery of his friends is the only reason he comes back. It's debatably worthless, but at least he does something. Like the first Sonic Rush, Adventure brings back the Boo style and Blaze the Cat, but this time the story is way more focused on the two of them working together. They seem way more like equals here, and all the cool vehicles that Tails and Marine are making take even more focus away from Sonic himself, and shoehorn in all these other gameplay styles. This game's more centered on exploration than pure speed like the first one, and given how prominent so many other characters are...
Aww. Darling, you were just trying to protect yourself. That's another reason we should have met when I was 12 and you were the same age. I would have never let that happen. I would have cracked my knuckles and just punched him across the face. I don't care about getting in trouble. I care about taking care of my girl. Nobody will do that to my baby anymore, not when we meet. Oh no, I won't let them do that anymore. If anyone does that to my lady again, I'm going to frickin' send them flying with one punch. Nobody hurts my chick.
He feels more like a sidekick, if I'm being honest. This opening cinematic is straight up beautiful. Watching Sonic and Eggman duke it out in space is so satisfying and smooth. Eggman has so many robots and weapons firing off all at once, and Sonic looks absolutely unfazed by it all. But he gets a bit too cocky, lets his guard down, and Eggman makes him pay for it. He decimates the planet, turns Sonic into his werehog form, and sends him back toward the surface. From there, he goes on a globe-trotting adventure with his new buddy Chip, and this game demotes the rest of Sonic's pals to either background characters or just completely omits them. Instead, it's daytime stages that feature that boost formula in 3D for the first time, which are adrenaline rushes through and through, and nighttime stages, where stretchy arm werehog Sonic beats up waves upon waves upon waves of enemies. He gets all the emeralds, puts the planet back in one piece, defeats the Egg Dragoon, and faces off against Dark Gaia as...
That has gotta be the worst stupid school ever. Darling, I am so sorry you have to go through that. Seriously, this is happening when I'm not around. I'm sorry, my darling. If I was around, I would have punched those boys and sent them flying. I'm not just extremely loyal, but I'm also protective too. I wouldn't just let any boy touch my girl. Because if they did that, they would go flying right through a stinking wall.
Super Sonic. He goes super all by himself again, and faces off against one of his most menacing-looking foes to date. And that, with being the only playable character in two different forms with their own distinct strengths, makes this an easy elite. Both episodes of Sonic 4 feature a pretty vanilla retelling of the original Sonic games. Eggman's back to stealing emeralds, building up a death egg, and Sonic's back to saving Flickies and stopping him with the help of Tails. Not really much else to say about these. Standard and that's a decent portrayal of Sonic. Typical. Eggman builds a theme park up in space where he's secretly making little aliens as slaves. Alright then. Sonic doesn't know this right away and just checks out the park for a good time. But he beats some levels, Eggman's intentions become more and more clear, and he stops him to save the day. This game has a super silly tone, and Sonic tries to crack cringy jokes in almost every cutscene.
Baldy nose hair! That's the best thing I heard all day!
It's hard to watch, but he's pretty average overall, and the Wisp transformations bring a slew of new abilities to Sonic's arsenal. But since they're temporary and dependent on power from another creature, I'm not really going to raise his ranking. This game brings back a ton of Sonic's friends for the first time in a while, but they don't do anything. The Time Eater shows up and sucks everybody into a void, leaving just Sonic to go around and rescue them. And even once they're saved, they just stand around in the hub world.
What is it, darling? What's the good news?
The only other character that does anything is his classic form, which is playable in these not very good 2D levels. Having two playable Sonics, though, was f***ing awesome when it came out, and makes this a clear-cut elite. This portrayal of Sonic's character isn't great. It takes his awful humor from Colors and just does it again, unapologetically. Eggman's controlling the Zeddy with some kind of magic conch, and Sonic destroys it, because, well, Eggman's the fucking bad guy, and it would make sense to take away his minions. Instead, he's made out to be an idiot because he didn't know the creatures were hostile and able to mind
You got sent home early? Yay! Good! I'm glad, baby. I mean, you may get in trouble with your parents. Good, you told all the boys' moms what they did? Let's go! That's my girl! That's my baby! Yes! W, Nico, W! Earned, W! Yes!
control Eggman's badniks themselves. Well,
Whoop.
sorry.
Whoop, whoop!
Tails tried to warn him, but maybe speak up a little bit and don't be so fucking indecisive and hesitant with your tone. Maybe he would have listened. They end up teaming up with Eggman. Tails is super pissed off at Sonic. Then he high roads Tails when he does something stupid, and Tails is sad. But then Sonic fucks up again and falls for a trap, and Tails sacrifices himself to save him. I was too slow to save my buddy. Yeah, kind of a terrible look, but it gets worse somehow. Because when a bridge him and Eggman are standing on collapses, Eggman grabs the ledge, catches Sonic, and tosses him to safety, before losing his own grip and falling to his death. Sonic should have died on multiple occasions, but was saved by Tails and his archenemy, and they pull off the upset somehow. I want to put this one in Worthless so bad, because there's 3 really awful mistakes, but he does save the day in the end, so barely wins. This is the only Sonic Boom game I'll be talking about, because 1, it's the only one for home console, and 2, because what I'll say for this one applies to the rest pretty well.
Oh, wow, darling. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. But, yeah, that's what their teeth are for. And, you know, when I get really mad, I do that too, darling. You're not the only one, but I really only bite when I'm doing self-defense. I don't do it for any other reason. I'm only really violent when I'm protecting myself or defending myself. I'm usually pretty friendly, but if I'm keeping someone I care about safe or if I'm defending myself, then I'm pretty violent. But most of the time, I'm chill until the journey calls.
With Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, and each character has unique
The destiny calls.
attributes that are required to beat certain sections. They're all equally important, and while Sonic is generally seen as the leader, in terms of importance, he's the same as the quote-unquote sidekicks. So, this game is a true return to classic for Sonic, and it makes Tails and Knuckles playable from the start of the game. Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide and climb, and Sonic has the drop dash, making them all feel really different and fun to play as, especially with select routes that only they can access. But for Sonic's ranking, since he's just as useful as his old sidekicks, he's going down there with him. I hate Sonic Forces. It tries to do this.
Oh, you have a bump on your face? I'm sorry, darling. If I was there right now, I would be cleaning up your injury. I would be treating your bump, so that way it wouldn't be there.
Generations thing again, but lacks an ounce of creativity in doing so. Modern Sonic gets the shit kicked out of him by Infinite to start the game, and is thrown in jail afterwards for a long enough time for Eggman to completely take over the world. So Sonic loses. He's in a jail cell handcuffed, and Eggman does what he wants. Meanwhile, classic Sonic shows up and saves Tails, then contributes a little, but the new customizable character is the one that breaks Sonic out. And even after that, Infinite continues to kick his ass. And in the big battle at the end of the game, Knuckles leads the forces, and the rookie is the one who stops the giant sun from crashing into the planet. And Sonic's helpless to the situation. He still sorta does his part, but he barely wins. Sonic Frontiers gives Mr. Needlemouse his most versatile moveset to date, with a skill tree for combat, the circle move that attacks and solves puzzles, and his usual at this point boost. And it's overall really smooth and tight to controlling. He also takes the events of the game a lot more seriously.
You're eating frozen and slushy strawberries? Oh, nice. Well, hopefully the frozen food you're supposed to be eating is not cold. Because if it's a hot type of food, you should probably eat that before you get sick. And the strawberries slushies sound really good, darling.
Cracking corny jokes and sounding all high-pitched like Roger Craig Smith is known for, he sounds way more mellow and mature. His friends are all trapped in cyberspace, and it's up to him to rescue them and uncover the mysteries of the Starfall Islands. It feels like Sonic really grew up for this role, and his abilities are better than ever, so we've got another really strong elite tier on our hands. Sonic's latest 2D outing brings Tails, Knuckles, and Amy back to a playable role, and they're selectable in co-op and as single-player characters right from the get-go. So like I've done for all the other games that do this, he's going in sidekick tier. And there you have it.
Yep, that's it. Alright, that's everything. Now, I think it's time for me to go. I got a park to run, and I will be. They taste good, but for brain freeze. Oh, I'm sorry, babe. But tomorrow, let's see. Let's check on my channel. I will be live streaming. Let's see. Let's look. Friday 13th Killer Puzzle Full Game Part 1 with Backhead Jason at 10 in the morning. 3 p.m. Jurassic World Evolution Full Game Part 1. And then at 8 p.m., reacting to Borderlands 2, Craig, a Meat Bicycle Built for 2 trailer. But until then, this is the final stream of the day. So, I hope you have enjoyed it. Let's see, let me put on my outro music. I'm gonna use throwback again, I think. Let's see, throwback. I'm gonna go ahead and put on my outro. Alrighty, let's get rid of this ad. Alright. Let's end this. Let's have it at 35 should be good. Alright. We've reached the end of the video of the stream, guys. Bye, darling. Love you. If you guys have enjoyed the stream, make sure you do me a huge favor. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below, click the bell, all that stuff. We are currently at 2.72k subscribers. We are on the road to 3k. Hopefully we'll reach the end we'll reach the end to 5k by the end of 2024, going into 2025. And with all that being said, take care, have a nice rest of your day, and peace!